Today we need to talk about Jung Kook's heartfelt message to ARMY and what happened there. Jung Kook says that he won't leave, and then we have Jung Kook shaving his head rumors and photos and people believing that he has a head tattoo. And then we have an alleged criminal lawsuit that HYBE is dealing with. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, tea spilling mug merch, and let's go. As we all know, HYBE and SM are in the midst of their acquisition, and there's a lot of drama going on. In this saga of drama, there's tales of betrayal and all that, so buckle in. Let me give some quick backstory here. HYBE has been trying to buy shares of SM. SM has been on the decline for years. HYBE obviously wants to save such an iconic company since they have pretty much made K-pop what it is now. So on the 12th of February, it was reported that HYBE was allegedly planning to go ahead and purchase all the shares of SM. HYBE wasn't the only company that was bidding after SM, as the Korean messenger app KakaoTalk decided they wanted some ownership too, and they both put down millions. Of course, HYBE wouldn't want another company to be taking big shares, as I believe they want the entire ownership of the company. However, right now the shares are owned by several different people, and it would just be difficult to get all of the shares. However, apparently during the buyout, there was a contract that said that some big stakes will be going to KakaoTalk, about 9%. HYBE had about 14%. HYBE and even the former CEO of SM apparently wasn't entirely made aware of this clause in the contract or this deal, and apparently the contract states that all domestic and global rights to sell music and management will go to Kakao, with no conditions or expiry date. So this could go on for as long as SM exists, and this also would mean HYBE, if they were to have bigger ownership, would have only some ownership of the company but no real power in anything, and any sway in which direction artists will take or direction the company will take. Since HYBE wasn't entirely made aware of this, they are calling foul on the deal. HYBE claims that they will be taking civil and criminal lawsuit over this issue and looking into it. I can totally see why this is annoying and why HYBE would be concerned over this. At first, I didn't understand what the big deal was with HYBE owning the company, but I started to see that there is also a bit of a cultural aspect as to why SM staff and employees seem to be all against the merger with HYBE. In Korea and most Asian cultures, it's very natural to take a lot of pride in your work. This is well known, but it can make less sense to us here in America, since most of us tend to care about our own career and not the company's career. So when we get hired, we tend to think about our own goals, and that oftentimes is not with that company. But in Asian countries, being with a company means you help change the direction of the company, and people take pride in that. Even what people would consider a lower level job, people would take pride in as well. So naturally, SM represented how K-pop was founded and the direction of K-pop. So everyone who worked at SM took pride in creating what SM is now, and also in hopes that SM will be this new thing. Being that everything now is being swallowed up by HYBE, it would make that mission kind of pointless, and that seems to be the sentiment in which all the SM staff and maybe some netizens had expressed. However, I would like to look at it in another way. HYBE is currently a huge money cow. They make a ton of money, and SM currently is needing some money. HYBE also claims they will not take complete control over the management of SM, so they can still continue to do what they want, but only the profits of SM will go to HYBE, and HYBE will be pouring in their money to make sure SM stays alive. So this to me sounds like a great deal, because otherwise all of HYBE would fall, and then all of the employees that work there will also be unemployed. However, aside from the company drama, the boys seem to possibly be at peace with everything. Some ARMYs are very nervous that BTS or Jung Kook would decide to leave the company or pursue their own thing. Of course, BTS members are now pursuing their own thing, but the concern of if Jung Kook will continue to pursue after BTS has all come back from the military is a concern. This is definitely not a concern that is needed, in my opinion, as BTS has announced their comeback date and all the boys seem very excited about it. I also want to continue to reassure them that this is not an issue. Back in 2020, BTS just finished their Map of the Soul 7 album, and Jungkook decided to leave a heartfelt message to everyone. By the way, I do react to the songs and videos from that album over on Patreon. There is currently a $1 tier spot that is open, and we have a lot of fun time laughing and breaking down K-pop over there. If you're interested, I will link that below. But anywho, he started off by talking about how hard everyone had worked on the album and dancing, and then hoped that everyone would like it. Jungkook continued to talk about how he felt like he was missing out on a lot of important things in life. Of course, usually when celebrities talk about this, and especially younger ones who have dedicated their life to the craft, they are usually referring to not not being able to date or not being able to have fun with their friends. You know, normal people things. However, Jungkook basically said that he had a lot of goals and actually wants to work harder learning how to sing and dance better. So while people thought that Jungkook would say that he wanted to go or leave the industry, Jungkook reassured everyone that he was not going to be going anywhere and that he will be right here. Of course, Jungkook ended this beautiful, heartfelt letter to talk about how much he loves ARMY and how much he appreciates their love and support. This is obviously something he does not take lightly, as I believe BTS fans or ARMYs are probably one of the few fandoms that really have catapulted the artist and also have really given BTS their voice. They're not just celebrities with a voice that will be heard by millions, but they're a celebrity that has a big influence over millions, because when they tell you to buy something, most people will buy it. It's usually the label that does that. So BTS knows that, and they're not going to take that love for granted. And even if the boys do go and continue to be solo after the enlistment, I think that's okay too. They'll still be here, and that's really the important thing. The fact that they won't disappear from the entertainment industry. However, many people think that BTS going to the military is just as bad as that, since we won't hear from them for several years. But we will continue to get updates from the boys even if they go, and I for one would be happy to see them do normal day-to-day activities like going to the military in Korea. There's actually many news sites that have come out to talk about when they believe all the boys will enlist, and everyone thinks Jungkook will enlist by June in 2024. So plenty of time for him. However, that is just a theory, and most people think Jungkook could even be preparing to go now because of his recent haircut. Jungkook did a live stream a little while ago where he showed himself boxing or training with his teacher. There was a chair that ended up blocking most of the view, but we could get an idea of this boxing training. But this was also a cool stream because people got to see Jungkook's new hair. It's like a mullet with bangs, or also probably known as a wolf cut. So it looks very good and people loved it. This tallied up with Jungkook boxing, ARMYs went wild. However, it wasn't only this. People also thought that the hair was a wig. I don't know why people thought this, but it was a thought like, oh, this might not be real. People opted or said that the wig was put on because his real hair was shaved off due to the military. Of course, there is no real evidence to support this. I just think it's funny, but hey, it could be true. Hair with bangs usually makes wigs easier to put on, as they don't have to hide edges or make the edges look real. You can just slap it on and it'll likely stay on. But my theory is that he hasn't done his solo work yet, so the idea of him going to the military might have to be put off for a little bit, as we need to see that album first. And I think he would want to put out an album before he goes. And others were even excited over the idea that Jungkook could go bald with his arm tattoos and look like your typical biker bad boy. Oh, and he also rides a motorcycle. Now, there were some people who brought up a very interesting theory of if Jungkook might have some tattoos on his head. Some say that when he shaves it, it's going to reveal a big old tattoo there, and people are going to freak out. I'm pretty sure tattoos like that would be unacceptable for him to get. Like, HYBE would have been like, no. I mean, it was already probably no for the arm tattoos, but head tattoos, it's a big no. I also think we would be aware if he got a head tattoo, because he would have to have shaved his head entirely bald, then go get the tattoo, and then grow it out again. And he's never been away long enough for his hair to grow from bald to long, and Jungkook usually has long hair. But I guess that's where the wig theory comes in. Y'all have too many theories, and it's not necessary, but it's very fun to read about. However, I am very curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think Jungkook's message to ARMY about how he won't ever go was sweet and you liked it? How do you feel about Jungkook possibly shaving his head, and if you like his shaved head? And of course, how would you react if there was a tattoo there? And of course, how do you feel about HYBE's alleged lawsuit over the SM and Kakao situation? Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos. A link down below. Thank you so much. Love the comment right here. Love you. Bye.